Welcome to another Tuesday night here at Flux Motorsport, where of course we are bringing you the FMTCC Championship Round 6, and it is the Fuji Speedway. Very, very dramatic looking clouds above the skies here in Ayamacho, Suntogun in Japan, just in the foothills of Mount Fuji, and it looks like it's going to be a very wet race. We are, of course, just coming up to the end of a practice session, 73 seconds remaining inside that one and some good times being set. However, the track is currently dry. 147s have been set in this little 5-minute practice session, so not really enough time for the drivers to really get their eye in, just enough for a bit of acclimatization around the course. So welcome to everybody that is joining us either for the first time or if you've been tuning in, week out for what has been an absolutely thrilling season so far of the Touring Car Championship here at Flux. We are, of course, looking pretty steady in terms of the leader, with Linga Bazinga topping out the charts with 147 points in his number 25, Hakeem Renault Megane. Interestingly though, Dan, who is second in the championship, is absent today, unable to make it, so that is going to give ample opportunity for the guy that has just come second in the grid. That is all U82, or Al Axon, as you'll hear me referring to him as, in that number 11 air bubbles. And of course we see the return, as you can see in third position there, of Essex Flatpack, joining us once again as the prime ringer inside this championship. Let's get the qualifying session underway. It's going to be 2 minutes and we are set for rain as I retire and get myself up into the box. And let's have a look who's going to be first out of there. Looks as though Wardy's making a move, as is Spankmeyer. Spankmeyer looks as though he's going to be the first car out on circuit, ready to tackle turn 1 Daihatsu, which isn't too bad when you're coming out the pits, but let's see what happens if we're set for a wet start to this one with 12 cars on the grid. So as they make their way around, let's have a little bit of an explanation about this circuit. It's synonymous with everything from GT racing to LMPs, endurance type, and now we're going to grace it with some European touring cars. It's a very tricky circuit to get right, no matter which car class you're in. Really favours the high downforce, and that makes it pretty tricky in something like a touring car. 2.827 miles altogether, which equates to about 4.5 kilometres if you're working in the Euros, and 16 rather differing corners all the way around what is a beautiful backdrop of a circuit. Let's jump into the cockpit of Spankmeyer. Let's see what he can see. Looks as though he's just coming up to Dunlop, I think. Real tricky chicane this. You'll see plenty of cars getting alongside one another, and there is the beautiful mountain. Inspires many different verses, many different Japanese fables, and now it's going to be the backdrop of what is sure to be a dramatic wet race here for round 6 of the touring cars. And of course, this won't be the only action that we're bringing you this week. We will, of course, be returning with the GT1s with DJ Redders and McToasty on Thursday at 8 PM UK time. And the GT1s are set for another nail-biting race as they tackle Catalonia, looking like it's going to be another wet race there as well. So rain is surely coming in, both in the Far East and also in the Western Europe as well. So Catalonia is the next stop for the GT1s, and then Friday night brings the American Championship Series, kicking off 8 PM Eastern Standard Time with the GTEs Friday evening. That they're taking on Watkins Glen this week, as will be the Indy cars as well. They're also live 8 PM Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, taking on the Watkins Glen short circuit, which is going to be very interesting for those very fast American closed wheel high downforce cars. Let's focus on what we've got going on here. We're just about to get underway with our hot laps here Just having a look at the sector time. Spankmeyer is currently fastest in Sector 1. Let's see whether or not it can materialise. We're currently tracking him around the circuit, as with his teammate as well. That is Wardy that you can see just in the background. That also looks as though it's Luke van der Streets who returns for week 6 in that turquoise and white PCCF car. Dutch driver has missed a couple of races, which has seen him down in 10th position in the championship standings. However, his talent definitely suggests that he's going to be working his way back up as the season progresses. Spankmeyer comes across for the first time. Whilst the track is dry, they're going to be rushing to try and get their best possible lap. And as the rain, which is now predicted, you can see in the very top of the screen underneath the track conditions, light rain is currently forecast for this session. So they're going to want to try and get those laps set pretty quick as they then prepare themselves for the onslaught of rain here in Fuji. So it's Spankmeyer top at the moment in pole position, Luke van der Streets in second, Booth Jumbo third, Wardy in fourth, and Essex Flatpack in fifth. However, Essex Flatpack is likely to come up with a bigger lap. Porsche man in there from nowhere, second place for him, and then Snarling Bongo sits in between both Porsche man and Luke van der Streets. So Snarling Bongo now in third position. He's actually running in the SRT BMW. Let's have a look at that. One of only 2 BMWs out on circuit, because Old Smokey has heeded the advice that I mentioned on the mic last week. Now switched from the Miss BMW, which he really hasn't been getting on with at all throughout this season. Yet to register a point, and he's now switched over to the Zavima Renault Megane. So let's see what he can come up with in what is arguably the easier handling car. Some might say the quicker car as well across the wider range of circuits. But the BMW should be pretty tight around this one. We'll wait and see though how it can handle the wet weather. So it looks as though there's improvements being made in most sector times. Snarling Bongo and Luke van der Streets look as though they're both off the pace of their previous lap. Maybe taking this one a little bit steadier because they are currently in and around traffic. Let's have a little look over to our championship leader in the form of Linga Bazinga. He is out, but it looks as though he's currently out on an outlap as he moves to let alongside. That'll be Essex Flatpack in the 4C Motorsports Renault Megane. Might pick up a tasty tow here though on the start-finish straight as they just come around Panasonic curve. Real tricky one this. It looks like your bog standard sort of right-hander. Real tricky corner. As it is up the incline, I could just see a few little splatters of rain here hitting the lens. Yep, that is definitely rain coming down, and that could be very tricky for Linga Bazinga as he comes out to begin his outlap. He's now going to have to try and complete his hot lap in the wet weather. He will, of course, be able to set a reasonable time in the wets, but you would expect the wet tyres on a wet circuit to be a couple of seconds slower than the dry. And now you can see the rain is really coming down. Looks as though we're just coming into Coca-Cola, and by turn 3 that rain has definitely picked up. Into 100R now, down the hill. He's doing pretty well, although it sounds as though he's balancing the throttle quite a bit. Let's have a look. See whether or not he's trying to manage the traction. Certainly looks it as the rear end just starts to come away from Linga. So 12 minutes and 50 seconds. Things are definitely getting interesting now, folks. We can see Al Axon into the pits, as is Booth Jumbo. They'll be coming in for wet tyres and to start their wet race preparations. But please allow me to go through the championship standings as they are. As mentioned before, Linga Bazinga is top of the championship with 147 points, with Dan VWB absent today, but he remains in second place before round 6 with 131 points. Al Axon is in third position with 124 points, and Kovkarl has managed to work his way up into fourth position. He is also absent, but fourth position for Kovkarl on 80 points. Spankmeyer is then in fifth. He's on 72 points, so 8 points difference between himself and Kovkarl, so he's likely to gain a place today. And then Booth Jumbo is equal on 5th position as well, after his unplanned absence last week. Porsche Man is then in 7th position. Looks as though he's got some pace here as well as Linga Bazinga manages to cross the line. Don't forget that was on a wet track, or growingly wet track, and dry tyres. So Linga Bazinga comes in 7th position. And that looks as though Luke, the dry tyres certainly aren't going to work for him as he returns into the pits. So where was I up to? Chris 94 M Sport in 8th position. He's also absent. The Italian driver currently stuck in work, so he'll not be notching up any points today, which puts him in the clutches of Wardy, Luke van der Streets, and also Snarling Bongo, who are in 9th, 10th and 11th respectively. 54 points for Wardy, 46 points for Luke, and 42 points for Snarling Bongo. Green Gaming is then in 12th position on 25 points, and the S2N Remy, who also appears to be absent today despite the invite going out, finds himself in 13th place with only Mark and Old Smoky below. Mark also absent, it seems, from this race. The Australian driver looks as though he may well have missed his alarm, and Old Smoky rocking his new car livery. Does look as though our drivers are about to make their way back onto track now in their wet weather setups. As Green Gaming comes in, he'll get those tyres changed out, switch those slicks to wets, and get himself back out for a little bit more practice. Currently 2.3 seconds off the pace of the other race qualifying leaders, should I say. Let's see what he can manage as the session progresses. Let's have a look though to our current pole sitter in the form of Al Axon. Looks as though he's still on slick tyres from the look of it. Maybe that's just my graphic not yet refreshed, but it is still telling me slicks in the top right. We'll be able to get a good view of that as the lap progresses, see how slippery it gets for him. And if you are watching us for the first time, welcome. And if you just find out about what it is that we do here, we are Flux Motorsport. We bring you the most true-to-life racing that we possibly can on the PlayStation 4 and 5 platforms. Currently racing on Project Cars 2, but also in the Dirt Rally Championship. And if you'd like to get involved in that, it doesn't matter whether or not you're playing on a console or what console it is. You could also be playing on a PC. You can get involved in that Dirt Rally Championship as well. Just head on over to FluxMotorsport.com and click the link to join our Discord, and we'll have you racing with us come next week. We do, of course, release a new round in the Dirt Rally Championship every single week for each 8 weeks of the season. We will, of course, be bringing you plenty more on-track action next season on Project Cars 2, but you will find plenty of keen racers who are all out there to take this game seriously. And it doesn't matter which game or platform you run on, sometimes it's nice just to be a member of a likewise community, get those hints and tips. So be sure to check us out. The website again is www.fluxmotorsport.com. Or if you just enjoy a little bit of motorsport, whether or not that is virtual or real life, then of course you can follow us on social media. Just use the @Flux Motorsport on your favourite or preferred method, and you'll find us there for all of your news and updates. So Al Axon is just about to begin his outlap now in the wet weather. Spankmeyer will also be doing the same as his Essex flat pack. Porsche Man still up in 4th position, and this could be a really good chance for him to get a great finish. I've been saying it all season long, he's having a real turnaround season in the touring cars this time around, Porsche Man, and he could really boost his points with Chris 94 M Sport and Kovkol both out of the running to score. Could well find himself up and around the podium spot with 2 races to go in the season. We'll wait and see though. Let's not count our chickens too soon. 7 minutes remaining inside the qualifying. Let's see what these lap times start as Al takes us out for the first hot lap of this wet Fuji circuit. And of course, tracking the YouTube comments at the moment. Please be sure to let me know either whereabouts you're watching or who your predictions are on for this race. Looking at it currently, it looks as though Ala's got this one dialed in. You can never really discount Essex Flatpack though. I've seen in every race he's come into, he makes a really strong impact on the finishing order. Spankmeyer's also looking pretty tidy, but you can see there's not much difference between the lap times of the top 7 drivers currently out on the grid on those dry laps. Just having a look at the sector times as they come in, looks as though Spankmeyer and Essex Flatpack are matching each other pretty much. Spankmeyer just with a slight edge in Sector 1, both of them running very low, 26 seconds. Alaxon currently with a 26.3, the other 2 drivers just below him on a 26.1. Rest of the field look as though they're a little bit further away. Luke van der Streets is relatively close. Linga Bazinga is actually super close in Sector 1 as well. Let's keep a little track on what he's doing as this session progresses. He might well move up another couple of positions. Linga Bazinga is actually matching his Sector 1 time that he did in the dry, in the wet. Didn't really have much of a chance because the wet weather did just start when he was just beginning his outlap. So 4 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. Looks as though Old Smoky hasn't been out yet to set a lap in the wet. That could be a recipe for disasters. We see Luke van der Streets there pointing the wrong direction on the start-finish line. Getting things a little bit wrong, maybe over-egging it, pushing that little bit too hard. Definitely an unusual place to lose it unless he was fishtailing coming out of Panasonic Curve. So keeping a close eye on the sectors. Let's have a look through these. Let's have a little look over to Spankmeyer. In fact, Spankmeyer's inside the pits. Let's have a look at Essex Flatpack. Looks as though he's just about to start a lap, and that is Linga Bazinga as well. That is just pulling alongside him. Looks as though he's going to have a little dip into Daihatsu here, and he's going to get it done as well. Sign of things to come, I think, that, ladies and gents. So many spots on this circuit to overtake, and I think you're going to see a couple more as well as Essex Flatpack comes straight back onto these two. Looks as though they're getting a little bit of race practice in, giving the viewers a little bit of a treat. And there is one of those other overtaking spots as well. 2 different lines coming through a 100R. Looks as though Essex Flatpack just falls back in line as Linga Bazinga continues to lead this little charge. Let's have a look at how their sector times come in as they cross the first sector line marker. Linga Bazinga with a 26.222, Essex Flatpack with a 26.774. About 0.4 of a second as Essex Flatpack makes his move up there into Dunlop. Comes out the back of it. Linga's definitely coming back on a little attack up the inside though. They come up to turn 13. He's not going to be able to get that one done. He's going to run out of road before he gets into turns 14 and 15. Real tricky little complex this. Turns 13, 14, 15 into turn 16 of Panasonic, which is the final corner. And again, a couple of different lines that you can take on this one. We can see there Essex Flatpack cutting inside. He's going to drive all the way out. That is pretty risky in terms of track limit violations, whereas you can run quite wide coming into the entry point of the corner, cut the inside off the apex. However, it is slightly slower. You're going to scrub some speed off on exit on that one. On the 2 minutes and 9 seconds, you can see there is no change at all just yet. Linga Bazinga comes across the line. He's not going to be able to beat his previous time. I think Linga there got caught snoozing when it came to that first dry outlap. So Al Axon leads the charge, still in pole position. Spankmeyer still in second. Essex Flatpack comes into the pits. I think he's done everything that he can do. He realises that he's not going to get any quicker. And now maybe just tinkering around with the setup. Maybe get himself a little bit of a comfort break to get himself psyched up before this race. Track temperatures are relatively high considering these wet conditions. 81 degrees on the track. That is, of course, Fahrenheit. 68 degrees ambient. So tyre wear is going to be a feature of this. It's also going to be a feature just because of the type of curves that we've got at this Fuji Speedway circuit. Not so much in the first and second sector until you get towards the end of it, but that last sector is really going to torture both sets of tyres. It's going to be a fine balance to make sure that the brake ducts aren't putting too much heat into the residual rubber. Essex Flatpack looks as though it was just a bit of a tinker. He's now going to come back out on track and see whether or not he's made some improvements. Little look at Porsche, man. See how he's getting on in the wet. He comes down into the Dunlop complex. No drama from him, really. Looks as though he's just driving it. Pretty casual. Riding through second a little bit, but the lack of drama is mainly gained from the fact that his car looks pretty well balanced. Looking calm and steady there, Porsche man. The number 86 Monster Energy looking for his best win of the season so far. He's managed a 6th position, a couple of 7ths, and I think an 8th. But getting anywhere within the top 5 is going to be a real accomplishment for him. And our 20 minutes qualifying is now up. Qualifying is complete. They're going to have a couple of minutes to finish up the laps. Al Axon is in provisional pole position and looking to try and get the bonus point for leading qualification. Spankmeyer is still out on track. Porsche man crosses the line. There's no improvement from him. I'm not expecting much improvement from any drivers, except perhaps it could have been from Old Smoky or Green Gaming. It doesn't look as though they're on for any improvement either. So it's going to be a tricky one for Linga Bazinga. He's going to have to work his way up through the midfield as Spankmeyer crosses the line. No improvement from him. Essex Flatpack is actually out on those wet tyres. And they're not yet warm, so that is the qualifying session done. Let's have another little recap through it, although it hasn't changed for quite a while. Al takes up first position, pole position for him, and he's going to be joined by Spankmeyer on the front row of the grid. But a vital bonus point in Al Axon's chase for the championship. Spankmeyer, as mentioned, in second, with Essex Flatpack in third. Porsche man up on the second row for the first time. That is including a one-place grid penalty, so that might well be Snarling Bongo in the end, who actually is going to be prime set for coming into first position in the BMW come the first corner. Keep an eye out for that BMW, as we've seen in all the races so far. Really does get off the line quickly if it's driven right. Luke van der Streets is in 6th place with Linga Bazinga in 7th. Wardy in 8th place with Booth Jumbo in 9th and Green Gaming in 10th. Old Smoky didn't do many laps, so he falls down at the back of the grid and he'll be looking to make his impression at the start. 2 minutes worth of tinker time now, as ever. Enough time to get those pit strategies set up and the wet setups secured and tested once again. You want to check and double check to make sure that you're set up correctly for a wet start to the race. Track is still relatively dry now, but by the time we get this one underway, it's certainly going to be a little bit more damp on track. So let me know your predictions. Are we going to see a bit of a runaway from Al Axon in his quest for the championship? We've got McToasty joining us, usually in the box, now in the comment section. I don't know if it's a confirmation that Porsche man is top 5. but he certainly is. Actually, top 4, but 1 place grid penalty sees him fall back into the 3rd row. Still, good efforts from Porsche man as he makes his continuous improvement throughout the season long. Snarling Bongo, as mentioned, in that 2nd row on the 4th position slot. Keep an eye on that BMW. Let's see whether or not it can hook it up off the line into turn 1. You will see plenty of defensive driving from Spankmeyer, trying to make sure that that BMW doesn't run up and away with it. But we will be getting ready for the lights in around about 20 seconds time maximum. In fact, they're coming right now. All green, and away we go now. It looks as though it was a delayed start from the BMW. Great start from Spankmeyer, it seemed. Did look as though Al Axon also got off the line a little bit slowly, but here comes that BMW moving its way up through the inside of Al Axon. Looks as though Spankmeyer's got the inside line. Are we going to avoid any turn 1 dramatics? Looks as though we are. So it's Spankmeyer leading the race ahead of Snarling Bongo now, with Al Axon in 3rd, Essex Flatpack in 4th, with Wardy moving his way up into 5th. Linga Bazinga's been able to gain a position as well. And Porsche man drops down into 7th place. Looks as though he struggled to get it hooked up off the line. Green Gaming up into 8th. Old Smokey into 9th. And Luke Van der Streets and Booth Jumbo seeing themselves fall right back to the back of the pack. Not sure what's gone on there. They're not too far away from the cars in front of them, so it doesn't suggest that there's been contact. Once this settles down, we'll have a look and see whether or not we've got any body panels hanging off Luke Van der Streets and Booth Jumbo. But for now, we continue to watch as Spankmeyer is now defending against Snarling Bongo's BMW. Snarling's having a little look up the inside. It looks as though the two come together through the Dunlop complex. It's also got a bit of a coming together with Essex Flatpack and Al Axon. So Essex Flatpack takes 3rd position. Al Axon drops down into 4th, and he's now going to come under pressure from Linga Bazinga, who's right onto him. We just have a little focus onto that. That is also Porsche man's Monster Energy, who's having a little look up the inside of Linga Bazinga. Linga Bazinga just catching some of the AstroTurf, it seems, on the exit of turn 15. Nothing but dramatics here in the opening lap of Fuji Speedway. Round 6 here in the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship, and it is a good reflection about what we've seen all season long. Got 6 cars chasing one another down into turn 1. Snarling Bongo is leading the charge in his BMW though. Spankmeyer in 2nd, Al Axon in 3rd, and looks as though Essex Flatpack has just dropped down. It might just be a formality for now, though, as Linga Bazinga tries to pull off that move up to the inside that we saw in qualifying with Essex Flatpack. Looks as though the two just have a little bit of a nose rub. And all of the cars come away from it. Classic touring car action here, and that has allowed Wardy now to get involved in this. In fact, all of the pack looking pretty close together, just 4.2 seconds separating them in these wet weather conditions. Fastest lap has been set by Snarling Bongo. That will be worth a bonus point should it stand come the end of this race. However, with 42 minutes worth of action left to go and the race sure to pan out a little bit with the split times, I'm sure that will get a little bit quicker. Let's jump into the cockpit of Linga Bazinga and see whether or not we can see what's going on in front of them. I'm afraid there's a bit too much rain. We'll go over to Al Axon. So that is Spankmeyer ahead of him, and Snarling Bongo as Al looks up the inside, and look at those puddles already forming up onto the inside of turn 10 into the Dunlop complex. That's going to be really tricky if that continues to build on. And the surface water looking scattered all over this circuit. No change though as they keep holding it on. It looks as though Al had to make a bit of an evasive manoeuvre there, just darting around the outside as Spankmeyer's front end seemed to get a little bit loose. That's now going to allow Essex Flatpack to make a move up the inside of Panasonic. Not going to get that one done unless he can get the drive coming out of turn 16. And this is music to Snarling Bongo's ears as the Dutchman now manages to build up a 1.5 second lead. That looks as though it's around about 10 to 15 car lengths, and the BMW is absolutely driving away so far here in the first 4 minutes of this race. Did predict that the BMW would be pretty good at this circuit. I wasn't expecting him to be able to make up such a different distance away from the start. I knew that he'd always be quick off the line. The BMW is, as soon as it gets through to second and third gear, it really has the acceleration over these Renault Meganes, but as the lap progressed, I thought that he'd maybe slip away a little bit. Not to be, though, as the Dutchman continues to hold on to over 1 second lead to Spankmeyer. Al Axen in third place, and Linga Bazinga has moved up into fourth ahead of Essex Flatpack. Wardy isn't too far behind, though. You can just see him in the background there, chasing around that 4C Motorsport Renault Megane of Essex Flatpack. Porsche man as well, despite the start where he's lost a couple of positions, he will just be coming into the back of your screen there, closely followed by Booth Jumbo. Looks as though Old Smokey's had a bit of a mishap. He's now fallen around about 9 seconds behind the rest, and we've just seen somebody using the runoff. It looks as though that is Booth Jumbo getting very loose in the number 8 team ACR, just about holding it together. I thought he was going to use the runoff coming into the Dunlop complex. It looks as though he managed to just gain some traction, but certainly looks as though he's struggling at the moment. Now falls back into 10th position behind Green Gaming. Get back up to the action in the top 3 as we're tracking around. Al Axen's number 11 Air Bubbles just having a look up the inside of Spankmeyer. Is he going to try and drag this one out into Daihatsu turn number 1? Also looks as though Essex Flatpack is chasing down Linga Bazinga in the slipstream, just managing to catch a little dry patch of track there. And then as soon as he hit the wet weather, looks as though he just lost a little bit of momentum. So Al is coming up into the inside of Spankmeyer. Is he going to get this one done? Looks as though he is. No big drama in the braking zone. And with that inside line, he's now just going to drive it cleanly through. And Spankmeyer is now going to come under pressure from Linga Bazinga if he's not too careful, which also follows up with a bit of added pressure from Essex Flatpack. Real close driving from the top 5 cars here in the FMTCC, all battling for position as Spankmeyer now comes back onto Al Axen. Al looks as though he's just run a little bit deep there coming out of turn 5. That's put him into recovery mode, I believe, as he tries to maintain momentum, but they're going to be going too wide into 300R. Falls back in line, so it's Spankmeyer in second, Al Axen in third, Linga Bazinga in fourth, with Essex Flatpack also not far behind in 5th place as they come up to Dunlop. Looks as though Essex Flatpack's going to get that move done, and Linga Bazinga comes mighty close. That was almost beautiful under braking in the wet as well, just couldn't hold it on without causing a collision. But solid effort there from Essex Flatpack on the pursuit of the Dutchman Linga Bazinga, just ahead of him in that number 25 Hakkeen Motorsport Renault Megane. Meanwhile, Snarling Bongo has been able to build up a 5-second lead as the rest of the cars battle up behind. May well be set for a free pit stop despite if he manages to keep on this momentum. The rest of the drivers will be trying to manage tyres. They're going to try and do this one without any stops. Of course, any damage picked up throughout the course of this race, we might see some people coming into the pits. But tyre wear is accelerated in this championship, and in these wet conditions, although it is currently just about spitting, we could well see the necessity for a change of tyres. Looks as though Al Axen's gone up the inside again, and that's allowed Linga Bazinga just to ride on through, pick the pocket of Spankmeyer into 3rd position, and he's now chasing down Al in 2nd place. Essex Flatpack's also on the charge as well. He's just looking around the outside of Spankmeyer. All drivers coming very close, and that's allowed Wardy in 6th place in the other SRT Renault to build up and get in and amongst this little pack of drivers. Al just runs a little bit deep there. Might well be getting a slowdown penalty from the race director. Let's pull those up. No penalties being applied so far in this race. Lap 5 of a 45-minute race here at Fuji Speedway. Snarling Bongo is absolutely dominating. Last lap was 4 seconds quicker than anybody else on circuit. 1:53.5 set by Snarling Bongo. And that was the fastest lap of the race as well. Also, he's gone purple in Sector 2 on this lap. So it looks as though he might well be making a further improvement as well. Just to give some perspective, Al Axon in Sector 2 was just less than 1 second off the pace of Snarling Bongo, and that is just one single sector. Let's have a look over to the Dutchman in the BM. Not a scratch on that car so far, so he's running real nicely, and although his qualifying may have disappointed him ever so slightly, the race certainly isn't. The rain has stopped now here at Fuji. We are forecast more rain to come though, so let's see whether or not this track does start to dry out and how much damage is going to be done to those wet weather tyres as we go through what is a somewhat dry stint. In fact, it looks as though we've still got a little bit of rain coming down here at 300R. Certainly still some puddles on the track to make sure that we try and keep those tyres nice and cool. Let's get back to the action though. Linga Bazinga still chasing down All U82 in second position. Looks as though he's just lost a little bit of momentum. Essex Flatpack is still holding on to fourth, and Spankmeyer looks as though he's lost a little bit of a split as well. Meanwhile, looks as though Booth Jumbo has managed to recover himself, and he's now charging on with a recovery drive. Currently 14.7 seconds off the leader, but he was down into 11th place at one point in the opening couple of laps. So the Team ACR is doing alright so far. Currently ahead of Luke van der Streets and Green Gaming. In fact, you can just see him coming around the chicane section of Dunlop Curve. Let's have a look what's going on with this. So that is Booth Jumbo in the pink and black liveried car. We're currently tracking around Luke van der Streets, Dutch driver in the number 19 PCCF, and that is Green Gaming, the Canadian driver in the BMW, just behind. See Green Gaming there, just having a little look up the inside, and it looks as though he's going to get that one done. That looked to be a great move, and that was those two different lines that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. Green Gaming making the inside line work for him, and that is going to be a clean pass for position up into 8th place, so long as he can hold it into braking into Daihatsu. Let's see what happens. Oh, we've got a big off there. Who was that? It looked as though it might have been Wardy. It was indeed. Wardy has a... Oh no, it's Spankmeyer. Spankmeyer has a huge off. That is definitely going to be some considerable damage. Not sure what happened. Looked as though it was a bit of snatch oversteer. Maybe just caught a little bit of grass, and you can see the front end wobbling left and right in that Renault Megane. That is definitely going to be a pit stop come the end of this lap. He's going to have to try and hold it together. And yep, you can even see the suspension damage on the front left. He falls back in line behind his teammate. But that is going to be really frustrating from Spankmeyer. He's going to have to try and get this one together, form up a bit of a recovery drive. However, it is going to give him the opportunity, should he want it, for some fresh wet tyres. With wet coming on, it could well be the difference of a couple of seconds. Snarling Bongo, meanwhile, as the track is just drying out ever so slightly, is going even quicker. He's just set the fastest lap of the race that last lap with a 152.739. Let's see what happens as he comes across the line to begin lap number 8. Doesn't look as though his sector times are showing a large improvement, so maybe he's reached the plateau on these wet tyres of what can be achieved. You can see there's no form of spray in the first part of the start-finish straight, very little through the middle section as well. And it is even quicker. I do eat my words. 152.482. So back on with the action. That is Essex Flatpack making a move on Linga Bazinga. Linga Bazinga now dropping down into 4th position. And looks as though somebody is out. Who is that? Looks as though it's Old Smokey. Old Smokey retiring from the race. Still yet to get a point. So the switch from BMW to Renault not proving to give Old Smokey any more luck. And with 30 minutes and 35 seconds remaining in this one, looks as though even if Spankmeyer does have to go into the pits and if he finds himself in last, it's going to sting a little bit less, as last place would form into a 10th position, and he can certainly build upon that as well. He's definitely had plenty of pace. So as we reach the 30-minute mark, track conditions are drying out quite considerably here. And those wet tyres are going to start to really cook in terms of temperatures. Snarling Bongo is still leading the race by 14 seconds though. Alaxon in second with Essex Flatback in third, and now this man Linga Bazinga in fourth place. They have to go 4 seconds back to Booth Jumbo and Spankmeyer. Let's see whether or not he's in the pits this time around. We've come to expect it. Looks as though he's sticking it out though. He is indeed. So obviously the damage not as bad as the collision indicated, or maybe he's waiting until the wet weather comes and then maybe he's going to go in for a combined wet tyre and damage repair pit stop. Luc van der Streets is in 9th place. We can just see him behind, and then Porsche man looks as though his great start to this race is diminished somewhat, finds himself down into 10th place. He can still build upon this though, as it looks as though we've got some spots of rain as the rain continues on. It looks as though this rain is set on the weather radar to remain with us up until the end of this race. So Snarling Bongo still leading the charge, and as you can see there, as the camera panned around, nobody is currently in sight as that BMW just starts to get a little bit sideways on exit. So just starting to lose a little bit of rear traction. That could well be those wet tyres starting to cook. Let's get back to the action with Linga Bazinga and Essex Flatpack. See what's going on with them as Linga Bazinga moves up the inside of turn 13. Is he going to be able to hold it through turns 14 and 15? Essex Flatpack is coming back on the charge. Going to have a little look up the outside and maybe go for a cutback through turn 15. Slingshots his way round and now going to make his move up the inside of Panasonic. If he can hold on to this one, oh, I think the two have come together. Maybe a little bit too overeager there from Essex Flatpack. They both return onto track. There won't be much damage from that at all. But you can see there the inside left tyre, sorry, the front side left tyre of Linga Bazinga just starting to peak in temperature for a slight second. And that's going to increase the amount of wear that's going on with this. Might well start forcing them into a pit stop. Continue on. 27 minutes and 10 seconds remain inside this one. Spankmeyer and Luc van der Streets are both into the pits. I think it could well be a case of Spankmeyer just holding off to make sure that the rain definitely came, as Essex Flatpack has a little bit of an off there. Is he going to come into the path of Booth Jumbo, who's moved up into 5th position after the accident of Spankmeyer and now looks to be able to challenge for 4th position. That is also Green Gaming up into 5th place and currently trying to take on board Booth Jumbo. So Green Gaming has just overtaken Essex Flatpack and moves up into the top 5. Real turn of events this round so far. We've got 12th place currently up into 12th place in the championship, currently up into 5th on the race. And he's just overtaken somebody who's finished in the top 3 in both of the races that they're featured in. Looks as though Luc van der Streets, the Dutchman, is out of the pits in 9th position. Spankmeyer still remains though, as the damage must have been as bad as I first anticipated. And this man, Booth Jumbo, What a roller coaster of a race it's been from this young driver in the Team ACR. Renault Megane, he found himself right at the back of the pack within the early stage. He's since fought back, got himself up into 4th position, and he's only what is it? It's less than 1 second currently behind the current championship leader of Linga Bazinga. Alaxon looks as though he's pretty secure in terms of the points to build upon his championship contention. Remember, he's currently 23 points behind Linga Bazinga, so it's going to be going down to the wire. This is race 6, 8 races throughout the season, so 3 remain when the championship standings were last done, and the final 2 races are going to be nail biters to see whether or not Linga Bazinga can be knocked off his perch. Currently the reigning GT1 champion. Let's see whether or not he can add a touring car to that trophy cabinet as well. Will take nothing away from his good friend of Snarling Bongo in that SRT BMW. Still keeping it hooked together, still lapping 2 seconds quicker than the rest of the field. He's now got a lead of 17 seconds, and he's just about to begin lap 12. He won't be far away from that free pit stop should he need to use it, which is almost unheard of to get a free pit stop inside the touring cars. So fair play to him. It's been a fantastic race, and as he comes across the line, his lead is now up to 20 seconds. He's built almost 2 seconds just in that final sector. Back to the action though for 3rd place. This is the battle for 3rd anyway. That is Booth Jumbo that we're currently tracking. Linga Bazinga is that final podium holder, and that is Green Gaming raining a charge actually inside that Bimmer. Let's have a jump on board with the Canadian, see what he can see as the spray completely covers his windscreen. Sounds as though he's absolutely maxed it there. Not sure whether or not he was still in 5th gear, but he was definitely bouncing off the limiter, and if that's in 6th, you'd wonder what he'd be able to get with maybe just a little bit of final drive in that last gear. Might well just be leaving them for absolute dead down the end of this start-finish straight, as we see Linga Bazinga there just getting a little bit loose, and that's going to allow Green Gaming to make a bit of a move on Booth Jumbo and Linga Bazinga. Essex Flatpack meanwhile has fallen around about 1.5 seconds away from the back of that BMW. See if he can build upon what was just a minor mistake. Just got a little bit loose, ran a little bit wide, and that just allowed the in fact it wasn't even wide, it was a little bit short. He just cut the inside of, I think it was the corner that was just witnessed actually through 300R. It just didn't set him up into Dunlop. He has since come back, and look at what can be gained just by the braking of 300, by the braking into Dunlop. We saw it with Essex Flatpack on Linga Bazinga a little bit earlier on in the race, and he's obviously got that absolutely nailed down. BMW does look as though it's got the pull coming out of that section, and through these twisties, the rear-wheel drive of the BMW looks to just be able to leave the Renault for dead in these wet conditions. So the race is being led by Snarling Bongo. Al Axon is 20 seconds away from him, but 8 seconds ahead of this little pack of drivers that we're currently tracking around in 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Looks as though we've just lost another driver, and that is Luke van der Streets out of the race. Not sure whether or not it was a disconnection or whether or not he's retired himself to the pits. Green Gaming is currently holding on to his 5th place, which will be his best finish inside any of the European Championships, I believe. Could be wrong, and I'm sure that he'll put me bang to rights. He has done very well in some of the American Championships, but yet to really make an impact in any of the European and Middle East Championships running at this particular time zone. Ooh, and comes very, very close to the back of Booth Jumbo there, Green Gaming, in that BMW. Looks as though we might just be able to make a little bit of a move up the inside. It looks as though Booth closes the door on him, wise to it. They come through 300R. Now take a look at an Essex flat pack under braking on these drivers. Look how much he's able to gain. Looks as though a little love touch there on the back of Green Gaming didn't unsettle the car too much, but the difference that he's able to gain just under braking into the approach of Dunlop Corner is obscene. I think Bazinga has definitely got his work cut out though as he tries to continue to hold off Booth Jumbo. Looks as though Essex Flatpack maybe got a little bit of ahead of himself there, just went a little bit too deep. Might just be slingshotting himself up towards Panasonic. Does look as though he's making big gains. He's braking much later than Green Gaming, so you'd like to think it's only a matter of time before he takes that position back. But how risky will it be when he goes for it? 20 minutes remaining inside, round 6 here at the FMTCC. And remember folks, you can join us as well, 8 PM UK time for the GT1 Championship, which will be brought to you live and direct from McToasty and DJ Redders as we get set for the Catalunya GP in those late 90s GT1 cars. Green Gaming has actually made a move up on Booth Jumbo, now moves up into 4th position. That'll be even trickier for Essex Flatpack because he's got a very defensive driver in the form of Booth Jumbo to pass next. Green Gaming might well be on for a podium. Never thought I'd say that inside the Touring Car Championship, but he makes the move up the inside, and it was a bit of a risky move, almost a bit of a dive bomb. He's going to come off worse for sure as he loses a position to Booth Jumbo. Linga Bazinga looks as though he accepts some liability for that with a flash of the lights and a hold up as well, just let off the throttle. So Booth Jumbo comes up into 3rd position. Essex Flatpack moves up into 4th. And now Green Gaming is going to have to do it all again from 5th as he runs a little bit deep into the entry of Dunlop. That's going to lose a lot of time. Going to have to go the long way around that chicane. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get too disheartened with this. He was up into 3rd position very briefly, and he can do it again so long as he gets his head back on the straight and narrow. Well, what a race we've had. Lap 15 so far of 45 minutes of action here in a rather wet and drizzly Fuji Speedway circuit. Just see the rear getting a little bit loose there on Green Gaming. Maybe a little bit too eager to hammer down that throttle. And he's now coming back with another charge on Linga Bazinga, so he certainly didn't lose too much traction. Meanwhile, looks as though the lap gains from Snarling Bongo have eased off ever so slightly, now only making around about 0.8 of a second up on his laps. Green Gaming just having a little look up the inside of Linga Bazinga there, thought better of it, not surprised, he very almost cut the line off, and Green Gaming is definitely treading the line in terms of driver licence points. I think one more point gained on his racing licence and he will have that licence revoked, so that's why you can see him treading with extreme caution here, the Canadian driver, as he runs across the grass. That's going to make the rest of these corners rather tricky. Looks as though he's managing to keep it together. Let's have a look whether or not Al Axon has got any sight of anybody else. That looks as though that's the back marker of Spankmeyer that you can see in the background there. Can't make out the number, but I do believe that'll be the number 66 SRT Renault Megane of Spankmeyer that you can see just in the backdrop. Definitely no sound through the speakers or on the camera of Snarling Bongo. In fact, yeah, you can see there he's all the way down the bottom end of the start-finish straight. I don't even think... Oh, there we can just get a little glimpse all the way down that huge start-finish straight of Al Axon. So Snarling Bongo still with a commanding lead, and it looks as though Essex Flatpack is making the moves now on Booth Jumbo. Tries to go around the outside of Panasonic, and that's going to allow Linga Bazinga to maybe try and get alongside. Looks as though Essex Flatpack has actually got the drive though, so Bazinga's not going to be able to do it. He's going to fall back in line, or maybe he's going to chance it up the inside under braking. We've seen both of these drivers try to pull it off, and Bazinga just with a nose ahead. So we can certainly go for it. Almost looking like they're going to go 3 wide. Essex Flatpack falls back into the middle of this one. And Bazinga looks like he might just get the move done. Is he going to be able to? Yes, he is. He falls into 3rd place ahead of Booth Jumbo. Essex Flatpack is going to come back on the charge, and it looks as though he just makes a little bit of contact there on the rear quarter of Bazinga, just trying to get his car settled back in. 15 minutes of this race, and it's definitely not a foregone conclusion for the final podium spot. Looks as though 1st and 2nd are pretty secure, but the 3rd place is definitely still up for grabs. Could be any of these 4 drivers at the moment. Bazinga, Essex Flatpack, Booth Jumbo, and of course Green Gaming in that mix as well. Wardy's not too far behind, around about 5 seconds, but I very much doubt that he's going to be able to get in and amongst these lot. Oh, we can see Booth Jumbo there getting very loose under braking. And the approach to Dunlop is getting very loose throughout that as well. I wonder if he's got a little bit of damage, or maybe some tyre temp issues. Certainly looks as though he's lost the front end of that car completely, as both Essex Flatpack and Green Gaming both make it nice and easy pass. Interesting what's going on there with Booth's car. Not too sure whether or not he's picked up some damage or what, but he certainly looks as though he's struggling a little bit for traction. Riding the very edge of the track limits. Looks as though it was safe to go though. Meanwhile, that BMW of Green Gaming is pulling alongside and now overtaking Essex Flatpack to move up into 4th position. Are we going to see a difference under braking though into turn 1? Both switch positions. Green Gaming manages to hold on to it for now. He's got 13 minutes and 30 seconds to hold on to it until the end of this race. That's going to be around about 6, maybe even 7 laps. So Snarling Bongo defying the odds, coming up trumps here at Fuji in the wet. 20 seconds the lead to Alax. I'm just going to bring up the fastest lap information. And it is, of course, being held by Snarling Bongo as well, so we'll get a bonus point for that. 151.146, which is about almost 4.5 seconds slower than what these guys were setting in the dry. But great laps there from Snarling Bongo in what has been a very wet Fuji race. That being said, Green Gaming, as he runs a little bit deep, commentator Kirst there, he's not going to come on and collide with them. Oh dear, gets very loose, makes contact with Essex Flatpack, and I think Booth Jumbo also got caught up in that one as well. Ran a little bit deep, decided not to use the runoff road, continued to try and take it in the grass, and somehow wasn't aware of the cars that were still passing on track. Bit of a schoolboy error from Green Gaming, that one, and it sees him slip down into 6th position. Maybe just not able to stop in time. Brakes certainly wouldn't work very well at all on the grass and mud. Oh my, indeed, as I read a comment there from McToasty. It's yeah, a bit of a calamity case of what has been a really good display of driving from all of them. And Essex Flatpack now has a little look up the inside. He thinks better of it, but hopefully not carrying any damage from that contact with Green Gaming. Booth Jumbo looks as though he got away pretty lightly. If he did make contact, it was going to be around the door area. Green Gaming looks as though he just scrubbed off a whole bunch of speed as well. Maybe it was just the camera angle. But does look as though Essex Flatpack is carrying a huge speed differential coming around 300R. Oh, sorry, 100R. not yet able to get that move done though. 11 minutes remaining. Snarling Bongo leading the race, Al Axon in second, Linga Bazinga in third, and he's now got 5 seconds ahead of these 3 cars, with Booth Jumbo in 4th place, Green Gaming in 5th, and Essex Flat Pack up in 6th place. Green Gaming almost did it again. He got back onto the brakes this time around, and Essex Flat Pack makes the move. It looks as though he's trying to brake late to match Essex Flat Pack on the approach to Dunlop. It's just not getting it done. Now you can see the differences in driving line across these ones. Oh, and he locks up big time. That almost looked as though it looks like a brake failure or something, the way that rear locked up. Not sure how he got so sideways so quickly on what is a relatively straight bit of road. Looks as though all 4 tyres were on the tarmac as well. But Green Gaming is last third of the race, goes from bad to worse as he sees himself drop down from 4th position, now in 7th in that SRT BMW. Now chasing 6th place of Wardy. He'll be really happy he's kept out of any serious bother, Wardy. He's had a rather insane few weeks where he just seems to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and struggled for pace as well around Hockenheim's national circuit. Looks as though he's managed to keep his pace relatively steady today, and it looks as though he's going to be able to secure some banker level of points as he just runs a little bit deep there. McToasty coming on to the charts saying Green Gaming might be experiencing some brake fade on the front. I'm wondering that as well. It certainly looked like a brake issue. I'd be inclined to say it was either on that front left or maybe just both of the rears, because it was coming up onto the approach of turn 16, so you've had some really tight twisty sections. It's actually this section, of course, that you're looking at. The exit of 300R into the Dunlop complex, and then it's nothing but lefts and rights, and I just wonder whether or not he's overcooked the temp in the brakes, maybe running those brake ducts a little bit too closed, and then as soon as he's gotten near them, the brakes have either faded or just stuck. But he went very sideways very quickly. Let's see whether or not he looks a little bit more composed this time around on the approach to turn 16. Certainly looks it. Well, he was using a different section of the track. In fact, I tell you what, I'm not thinking about, could well be a puddle on the inside of the approach to Panasonic, because that is also another feature of this game. As we flip on over to our lead, we'll try and have a look at it as we come out of turn 15 up towards the final corner. But you can't really get a great view of these. We're currently at the Dunlop complex. As we go into the cockpit, now you can just see how greasy this track is and where some of these puddles are forming. So up into the approach of turns 13 and now 14. Track is greasy, but no major puddles to speak of except the outside there. And this is where Green Gaming went. It was on the inside, and that you can see a little lake forming up, and I believe that's what caught Green Gaming out. Just caught into that puddle, aquaplaned, and he actually did very well to catch it, it seems. As we see Spankmeyer back into the pits again. Was that just a brief one? I think it was maybe just a little bit of damage repairs, perhaps. I'm not too sure. His car still looks pretty knackered. Fuel levels still look alright. I wonder whether or not he's just had a bit of a splash and dash, perhaps. But either way, not a good race for Spankmeyer. He was 5th in the championship before this race. I do believe that he's going to drop down that running order ever so slightly, because he was matched up with Booth Jumbo on points. Both of them joint 5th, and Booth Jumbo currently running in 4th position. Essex Flat Pack looks as though he's just held off a potential attack from Wardy. And Wardy is now going to have to hold off the 7th place of Green Game, and you can see him there staying very, very left after we can confirm that there is pretty much a lake formed up on the inside of Panasonic's approach. Now Green Gaming's BMW on the charge again against the Renault Megane. Let's actually bring up the speedo. Let's see. Yep, looks as though he is. He's maxed out in 6th gear. He has to let off as Wardy goes on the defensive, covers off the line. And Green Gaming is going to have to come back and fight another day. There's Essex Flat Pack. He's had very little time to prepare from this one. He was on the rush home from a job in London. Managed to get home in due course, just enough for about 5 or 6 laps before he entered this race. He is, of course, a reserve driver, but what a reserve he is. He always comes on and puts on a great show, and it hasn't let us down again. He's been up and amongst the front runners throughout most of this race. He just found himself dropping back down the running order after a bit of a coming together. Has since struggled with the pace. I think maybe the tyres have just gone off from the man from Essex. He's just not able to keep the pace that we saw much earlier on. He was previously setting 154s last time around, a 159 from that 4C Motorsport. So 4 minutes and 40 seconds, around about 2.5 laps remaining inside round 6 of the FMTCC. What an absolute cracker it's been from start to finish. The rain making it all the more dramatic, and if you fancy a little bit more touring car action, remember you'll be able to join me in the box for round 7 next week, where we bring you all of the action from Sekito, aka Suzuka, sticking with it for Japan, and then we're going to head right back on over to Europe for the final leg of the championship season. And what a treat we have as we take on the Nordschleife combined circuit. All of these drivers will have been getting some prep in for the Nürburgring, and they're going to try and pit themselves against one another for 45 minutes for the final race of the season. Could well be a title decider, that one as well, between Al Axon, who we've now got up on the screen, and Linga Bazinga, who is currently running around about 16 seconds behind. Let's have a little bit of a focus though on our race leader as Green Gaming moves up in position. He's now back up into 6th place. It actually happened just as I flicked away. Do apologise, didn't mean to change the camera that time around. But he has moved up into 6th place, and he's not too far away from the back of Wardy either. So I'll tell you what, let's go have a look over to those, and we'll return back to Snarling Bongo before this race is up, as Wardy gets a little bit loose. That is Green Gaming moving back up into 5th position. He's also going to run out of traction if he sticks on that inside line on the way down to 300R. He's going to have a little look up the inside. He's going to try and outbrake Essex Flatpack here. I was going to say he'd do very well to be able to achieve that. We've seen how much Flatpack can get onto the brakes into this little section. But Green Gaming returns once again into 5th position. Let's see whether or not he can get a bit of a charge on and maybe challenge Booth Jumbo in the final couple of laps of this race. Remember folks, if you're watching this with eager green eyes and you fancy getting involved either for the remainder of this season, maybe get involved into our off-season events, or maybe you want to see yourself on the streams for next season, season 3 of the 2021 year, then the only place you need to go is over to our website, www.fluxmotorsport.com. and remember, if you want to catch up on anything from this season or the previous season's footages, you'll be able to do so on our YouTube channel. Just head over to the playlist and you'll be able to select your desired championship. Also, be sure to subscribe if you like the content that we push, and if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the races, then please hit the bell icon. Please just be aware though that we do run a couple of championships inside the American time frame, so you may want to make sure that you've got silent mode enabled when you go to bed. Those races do kick off around about 1 o'clock in the morning here in the UK, and if you live anywhere further east in Europe, it's obviously going to get a little bit later. So with the public disclaimer out the way, let's return back to the action. Still battling for 5th place here, Green Gaming. Looks as though he might well be able to secure it as well. He's got around about a second and a half to Essex Flatpack. The BMW definitely has the drive on the Renaults in the later stages of this race. Back over to our leader and what is surely going to be the winner. I'm pretty sure he could decide to flip it round and reverse it and still finish up in first with that 25-second lead. 41 seconds remaining, so this will be the final lap of the race as Snarling Bongo just comes around 100R with over 2/3 of the lap to go. It's been a stellar performance from the Dutchman. Managed to get himself from 4th position up into the mix for first. Couldn't quite get it done in the first corner, but he persevered, and I think it was lap 2 he managed to get himself up into first place, where he has remained ever since. And if he's made any mistakes, we certainly haven't caught them. The car looks absolutely immaculate despite a little bit of dirt. That is him now approaching the back marker of Spankmeyer, I believe, and that is the race timer done. This will be the last lap of the race as Spankmeyer moves alongside just to allow the race leader through. So Snarling Bongo is certain to take this race victory. He's had some good showings so far this season in the touring car. Unfortunately, he's also had a couple of missed races and a couple of unlucky performances as well, but maybe this will be his championship turned around. Great effort today here at Fuji to secure the race victory and the bonus point for the fastest lap, so it will be 36 points to Snarling Bongo. As he crosses the line, Al Axon is going to finish up in 2nd place as he comes around the second to last corner. That's going to do the world of good for his championship contention. Will edge himself ever closer to Linga Bazinga, with Linga Bazinga finishing up in 3rd place should he be able to secure it. But great effort from the number 11 Air Bubbles. He was racing to try and get home in time, and I'm glad that he made it because what a performance it was from Al Axon. Great 2nd place finish from him. Linga Bazinga has done enough. He's had a bit of a roller coaster race as well. He snoozed and lost when it came to the qualifying position. He ended up just beginning his outlap as the rain started to come down and he was on dry tyres. So that screwed him up a little bit. He managed to get 7th position in the end. Did see himself make some instant gains off the line. But he's had a bit of a yo-yo since then as he comes across the line in 3rd position. And then Booth Jumbo, talk about roller coaster races, what a recovery drive it was from him. Ends up crossing the line in 4th, and that's going to kickstart his championship once again after that missed race. But congratulations to Green Gaming, 5th place overall, finished above Essex Flatpack and Wardy. And that is his best finish ever in a touring car, I do believe. Essex Flatpack will be disappointed with that, and we'll see what will be said as he returns into the pits. But I think he just struggled a little bit for tyres come the end of that race as his lap times just dropped away. Wardy did all right in 7th, but his season continues to peak and trough. Much better than he got at Hockenheim last week. And then Porsche Man comes across the line in 8th position. Bit of a poor showing from him as we've seen him make good improvements in every race this one. He just falls back ever so slightly and then Spankmeyer will be majorly disappointed with it. So these are our race positions completely classified, our final classifications should I say. Snarling Bongo finishes in 1st position and there you can see that best lap with a 1:51.146. All U82 in 2nd place with Linga Bazinga in 3rd. Booth Jumbo manages to get himself back up into 4th ahead of Green Gaming in 5th place. That is right, Green Gaming in 5th place in that SRT BMW. Good show from him. Finishes ahead of Essex Flatpack and Wardy with Porsche Man in 8th, Spankmeyer in 9th, and then Luke van der Streets and Old Smoky both retired from the race. As mentioned earlier on in the evening, you'll be able to join DJ Redders and McToasty live for the GT1 Championship Race 6 at Catalunya GP Circuit. you'll be able to tune into that from our YouTube channel, 8 p.m. UK time, which is around about 3 p.m. in the afternoon if you're watching over in our Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, the American Championships return with the GTE American Supercar Championship, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday evening, which is around about 1 p.m. in the morning if you're watching here in the UK. And then the IndyCars also take on Watkins Glen, but the short variety, that kicks off 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday evening, which is around about 1 p.m. in the morning on Sunday here in the UK. I've been Murphy GBR. You'll be able to see me on track, the GT1s on Thursday. And from us all here at Flux Motorsport, we hope you enjoyed that one, and we'll see you all again very soon. Take care and good evening.